Hey, fifth grade, ready for spring week 2? This week you're going to need your pencil and paper, or pencil and eraser. You're going to need some kinds of coloring supplies and your last week's black and white portrait. It didn't have to be a portrait of you, but it did have to be a person, and it did need to have the correct proportions. That leads us to our learning target. I can draw a portrait with correct proportions, and I can add patterns in the style of Liechtenstein. In case you have forgotten, these are some student examples of what we are working on. The two on the outside, these two, are examples from our own school from last year, and this is just one of the internet inspirations that I found for it. So, like I said last week, we looked at Roy Lichtenstein, but we also talked about how to make a proportionately done portrait. It didn't have to be of you, it could be of any body, but it needed to be a human, and it needed to have the correct sizes. You didn't want to have your eyes up here at the top of your head or your nose off to the side. You're not a Picasso, we're doing Lichtenstein. So once you have that, you are going to color your color your hair, your shirt, and any small details, which is what is being covered up there, with a solid color. On one side, I did normal colors, my actual hair color and, easy to appropriate colors. And then on this other side, I did comic book colors. So this was again your hair, your eyes, your lips, your shirt. It's the rest of the portrait that we're going to be doing with the dots. So take a look at how I colored my two examples. All right, so now I have my two examples here, and I'm going to work on one of these with the dots to show you my example. I think I'm going to work with this one. So I know that I'm going to need a skin color for my dots, so I'm going to go with a marker, and I need a purple for my background. If you have been watching, you've probably noticed I did the hair and marker and the skin and the background with color pencil. That's because they come out looking a little bit different and they're a little bit lighter. It will help that these colors that are in the backgrounds, your face and the whatever, are in a lighter shade. If you only have markers, pick very light versions of each other. So like I could have picked a really light purple and then done that dark purple over it. That's what I mean by make sure your other colors are light. So one of the tricks I discovered when I was working on this was to take a piece of folded paper, pull it across the top, and then start to do the dots. Now, before we go too far, let's talk about these dots. Your dots are not that dots. That's way too tiny, and it will take you weeks to get this done. We're also not talking about dots like this big. That's too big. That's not going to look interesting. That's just going to look like you scribbled over your paper. If it helps you, take a look at your fingernail. You're going to make a dot about the size of your fingernail. Then you're going to make them again and again and again. And I know it's going to drive you crazy. If all you get done this week is coloring this, that's fine, because next week we're going to be finishing this. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with this so anybody who's ready to can do the dots. So I'm going to flip it over so you don't have to see. I'm going to line that up there at the top, and I'm going to keep this piece of paper to help me keep my dots in a line. All right, first row is done. They're not all the same size. That's okay. But they're also not touching each other. You want to make sure that your dots aren't super close together. I mean, on the flip side, don't make them really far apart either. So I'm going to squeeze down again, and I'm going to start my second row. I'm just going to keep going. I am trying to make sure that they are underneath a previous dot. That just helps. Background done. Next, working on the face. You can try and make one row even with the other rows. I think I can make that one work out evenly. So I'm going to get started on the face. And there you have it. One finished Liechtenstein inspired portrait. Ooh, that was a lot. Now, remember, we're going to be working on this, the color part, for 2 weeks. So if you only get part of it done, that's fine. I just wanted, again, to show everybody who wanted to see the whole thing, how it looks. All right, guys.